Okay, so welcome to episode 9 of our strain vlog called The Disappeared, or at least that's what the episode's called anyways. So this kind of title came around because of something Nora said. She was talking about how, people are now going to be start disappearing from their family, and their family's not going to really know why. And even when they do kind of figure out that something's going on, they're not going to know what happened to them. And she kind of compares it to Argentina and like the political situation there, I guess, when her family immigrated, and how kind of just people just disappeared and you never exactly knew why or what happened to them. So I thought that was a very interesting comparison.
I think Eph just brushed it off too.
I know, right? Like it was clearly like a
heartfelt kind of
comparison and...
Nah, nothing like that, Nora. Well, this kind of foreshadows what happens later. But
we'll get to that. So, our ragtag group, which is now starting to look like a very small and slightly effectual vampire hit squad, are still driving around in the red truck. They stop at, I don't know her name, but the female hacker's house.
I think they call her Dutch.
We will call her Dutch.
I don't know, I want to call her Kesha.
She's like a British Kesha? I don't know. Okay, so British Kesha needs to get her stuff. And, of course, the rat catcher decides that he's not going to let her go up there alone because there's probably vampires running around. And so she goes up and she realizes that her girlfriend/roommate stole all her stuff, her computer, the money she got paid by Eldridge, just everything. She's got nothing now.
I love the rat catcher's reaction, though. Because, she's going around, she's like, oh, everything, my laptop, my life was on that laptop, no. My roommate ran off with everything, and he's just like, okay. And she's like, but she was more than my roommate. And he's like, okay. This is why I don't have friends. And she's like, we weren't just friends. And he's like, okay.
He's just like, well, you're coming with us. And she's like...
And then a guy down the hall, stoner down the hall, comes in, and then he's vamped out, and he's just like, you're coming with us now. And she's just like, you have, like, no emotion. And he's like, no, I have emotion. I'm just like, we gotta
do stuff. Which is like, and then he kind of says, gets kind of told the same thing by Satrakan.
Satrakan is just basically to the point where it's like, you are the one I need. You can make decisions.
Leave the emotions to everybody else because they've got too much. You feel kind of bad for him because he's almost like not allowed
to feeling things.
Yeah, and he's just like going to be relied upon and kind of like tamped down.
Well, I mean, you have F. And you need something to
balance out. Oh my god! I just feel a little bad for him.
Yeah, I get that. He doesn't like he knows what he's going to be doing, but he knows that he has to, and so he's kind of making that sacrifice, which makes me love him even more.
Then he has a conversation with later on. He has a conversation with Nora about what happened in the last episode where he had to put Jim down. And Nora's like, he should have been put down by someone he loves. And the rat catcher looks at him and is like, but you weren't ready to do that. And, like, you can tell, like, they don't get that he's, like, not happy about that he had to do that. But he's just not out there with his emotions. I don't know.
Can I have a moment?
Yeah.
I want her to end up with the rat catcher. I want Nora and the rat catcher to end up together because I think that they are just a really good, like, match in the fact that she's very emotional and he's very, like... I think they could bring out the best in each other.
I think you're right.
Unlike F, who, as episodes go by, I like less and less. Because, okay, in this episode, F, you stupid, stupid man. The bread truck stops off at F's house. They're dropping him off. He gets in. He finds his son is being attacked by Matt, a vamped up version of Matt. And so F gets that little moment of, oh yeah, like,
I've always wanted to do this.
So he, like, decapitates Matt, brings his son to Satrakan, and he's like, oh, if my wife's in the basement, I don't want my son to be here when this happens, and so sends Zach off with Satrakan, which is just like beautiful, and we'll talk about that after. But Nora's like, oh, I'll stay with you to burn the body. And I'm just like, no, come on, guys. We're not going here. We're not going to do this. And so then they have this really kind of weird scene where they're burning Matt. And they're like memorializing Jim. And Nora's like, this is really messed up. Do we want to say anything about Matt? And F, no, we don't want to say it. It's like, okay. You don't like him. I get that. But he was a good guy.
He like, genuinely cared for Nora. And he kind of went out being a hero. Mm-hmm. Didn't obviously work, but...
He tried. And the fact that Matt came back to the house meant that the people that he loved most were Zach and Kelly. So... stupid F. And then of course, like, we burned the body, and the one thing I noticed that I really liked was the newspaper he uses to light the body on fire actually has the picture of the goth rocker on it, keeping it real. But so we burnt this body. We're now like packing up shit, and what do? What tensions ran high. So
of course they have sex in his ex-wife's bed.
And, like, you're just like, there's only one way this is gonna go. Someone's gonna walk in on them.
It's either gonna be a vampire or his ex-wife.
It's like, spin the wheel! Who's gonna walk in?
It wasn't actually either of those two.
No,
it was his ex-wife's
friend.
Still awkward, less interesting.
Oh, and she's like, I love this woman. I love her. I want her to survive everyone else. What's basically gonna happen is the world is gonna go to shit in this show. And finally, however, they stop the master, and everybody's just like, how are we going to rebuild society? And she's just going to swear in and be like, we do it my way. Like, this woman is amazing. And she's like ready to like rip into F and like rip into Nora. And then F, you stupid. What does he say? Oh, I love my wife. She's the mother of my child.
And Nora's like literally behind him, just like, well, thanks. I'm just gonna zip up my pants and go on my way now. Like, thank you, you royal asshole.
You can't have it both ways, F.
He wants to. He doesn't even see a problem with it. He doesn't like kind of look at Nora and be like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this because I'm still in love with my wife. And he doesn't look at Kelly like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done Nora, like, whatever like, this thing we have going.
The first episode, he's just, Nora's, like, it's alluded that they've slept together. And he's like to Nora, we weren't living together at the time, so it doesn't count. And I'm like, F, you can't have it both ways, F. Stupid.
Like, yeah, just an absolute moron. He doesn't even think about it. That's the funny part. Like, he doesn't put it together.
So that is another reason why I don't want Nora to end up with F, because I don't think he respects her.
You know what? She's better than him.
Yes.
She just is.
She has her morals. She doesn't. F flip-flops around like a fish out of water. Oh, destroy the vampires. Oh, find a cure. Oh.
Yeah. Just no. Anyways, then we have some very cute scenes with Satrakan and Zach, because Zach goes off with Satrakan, so they're sitting together in the bread truck, and then they're, sitting together in the house as he's waiting for his dad to come back, and you're just like...
I love Satrakan, though. He's like, no nonsense. He's like, read, learn, and then just like drops like this big, thick book of vampire lore on his desk in front of him.
Like, they can't probably keep up. The kid would probably best all of them eventually. It's just...
I just love it because that's not what F wants. F wants to, like, keep Zach out of it, and Satrakan's just like, hey, if he wants to survive,
here you
learn
go.
The rules.
Because, like, yeah, oh god, I can see that coming, and it's going to be a big argument about nothing because it's so stupid. Like, F is going to throw this hissy fit about his son learning about vampires and learning how to protect himself and blah, 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 blah. God forbid his son was a daughter because... and just... Satrakan's going to be right, and then it's just going to cause a big kerfuffle, and I just don't want to deal with it.
And the other part of that scene that I loved so much was Satrakan and Zach sitting on the couch. Satrakan has booze, and he gives Zach, like, a glass of milk, and they're just sitting there together.
They're just cute.
I love him so much. He's my favorite character.
Because like, Satrakan's been through so much, but he's not, like, bitter. And
he's kind of bitter,
but he's got,
not.
like, this, like, respect for innocence,
yeah.
right? He's not like, I need to destroy it. He's like, well, you're a kid, and you need to learn how to protect yourself, but, like, the world isn't all bad to him, right? So, it makes a good pairing.
And then, of course, I love it. F comes in, and Nora's just like, and disappears, and F goes to Zach, and Zach's like, did you burn Matt's body, Dad? And just, you can see the look between F and Satrakan, and it's just like, we will discuss this later.
And then there was this beautiful moment when Satrakan and Zach were on the couch, and F was still back at the place, and he's like, so when's my dad coming back? And Satrakan turns to him and he's like, he's doing what he has to do. You know, he's got to work through some stuff, and just
what he's doing takes time.
Yeah, and lo and behold, in the scene before, he and Nora were going at it, right? And he used every like possible way of not saying he's coming. And I was like just praying that they would cut back to Eph and Nora having sex just to get the humor across, but then they cut back to
German Nazi vampire,
and it ruined the whole childish amusement for me.
Also going on in this episode, we get to follow Gus and Felix. Felix has gone through the transformation, and we are back to the scene that traumatized me in the book, where they're in the little tiny car, and then all of a sudden, eat everyone! Eat all the people!
Felix is looking around like, ooh, there's a snack, and they all start yelling, and the guard was like, what's going on back there? And of course, yeah. And then the other guard's like, holy shit, what's going on? And he comes around, and then Felix is like, meow. And then poor Gus has to...
There is one of the things in that scene I liked was there's a look of recognition between Felix and Gus, briefly, and it's just like, oh, he's gonna eat his face.
I know, right? Gus just waits like that, like, long stretch right before Felix is about to nom him, and then
pops, like shoots him in the head. It's like, well, good job, you stopped him, you possibly infected everyone within radius with worms, because splatter, you know, but...
But it would have splattered backwards.
I'm just thinking in the more vampire way. Because, you know, they're really close together, right?
That's
so, like,
true.
This worm...
But they're trying to go this way, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're... Everybody's like this, and he's shooting that way, so mostly it would splatter backward. I don't know.
And so then, of course, Gus runs off into the sunset.
And off to do whatever Gus will do in the future. Better get out of that orange jumpsuit.
Other characters. Kesha, British Kesha, tells Satrakan who she is, what she did. Satrakan is just like, thank you for being very honest with me. Can you fix it?
Like, he's been through all of this so much that, like, nothing seems to surprise him anymore. And he's just kind of, like, made allowances for human nature. Because, like, I don't know, most people would be pissed. They'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why didn't you know? He's like, you just didn't know.
And he also realizes that people have their uses. He knows that, okay, there's no point in making her leave because she can be useful to us. If she can get the stuff back up, that's going to make our lives easier.
And she gave him information that he needed, too, because she was like, oh, you know, him and that creepy plastic-faced German guy. And he's like, aha! I know exactly where they are. He doesn't do it like that, but he's
you
like...
can see it in his eyes, like, yes.
Yeah. So, and so he's like, he gets something out of it. Unlike F, who, when Jim is like, I
did this. You were dead to me!
Yeah.
Maybe I should start doing F as Batman. Because that's okay.
Where are the drugs?
Where are the drugs? Okay, but back on topic before I degenerate. Flashbacks. We had some very important flashback scenes to the war with German Nazi vampire and young Abe getting his hands on a knife and making a move. I'm that master guy.
It's not a very smart move or very effectual move, but it was a move.
He tried. I like the interaction, like the master just being like, I know you've been watching me.
You think I didn't know you were watching me? Like, come on.
Stupid little carpenter. And then he crushes his hand, which is a death sentence.
Because tomorrow is the day where they start sorting people into piles. People for the hole and people for the truck. And without his hands, poor Abe is useless, so he gets...
That moment, though, was like, okay, because Abe and German Nazi Vampire have this very weird, I guess the word I'm going for is chemistry, and I don't know how to describe it, because it isn't really romantic. It isn't really friendship. It might be some kind of weird...
It's like an understanding.
Yeah,
it's respect and basic understanding.
German Nazi Vampire respects Abe because Abe is a skilled craftsman. Even though, like, in that previous scene, in that previous episode where he's like, oh, you know, it's so easy to do nothing.
Mm-hmm. He still respects Abe.
And I guess it works in the regard where Abe kind of sees him as a coward, almost, because where he's saying, oh, it's so easy to do nothing, it works both ways. And so, who's doing the sorting but German Nazi Vampire? And there's the moment where he's like, oh, what are you hiding from me?
Why do you have your hands behind your back?
And so he lifts up his hands and, like, he looks at him and it's almost, I'm not going to say it's pity, because it wasn't, but it's almost pity. It's like, oh, I kind of liked you.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to really give them credit to the actors. Yeah. Those two, especially in the scene, because they put off, like, emotions that you can't exactly describe, but you really understand what's happening, kind of thing.
And I really liked throughout the scenes with him, the German Nazi Vampire, when he was... how he goes from being, like, they show him when you first enter the camp, he's higher than everyone else, he's very, like, well put together, and the slow degeneration into him just binge drinking the entire time.
Oh, God.
And so he, like, basically Abe's about to get shot, just killed, and then the Russians come and they escape.
And then cut to...
the scene I've been waiting for. So you've been watching him here, and you're wondering, how did he become this? Like, it's kind of alluded that he's doing stuff with the Master because he gets Abe to carve the coffin. But how does he go from human to crazy weird vampire who smiles a lot? Well, so he escapes the camp, goes to, like, the little hidey hole. He lights a bunch of candles, and then, like, has a meltdown, like a...
I don't even know why he's having this meltdown. Like, it's not like the Master is, like...
Well, he's basically lost everything. He's going, like... all the power he had over the camp is gone because the Russians have taken the camp. He's a hunted man. Clearly, he looks the part. So if he gets found, he's done. Yeah,
but I mean, like, the Master must have promised him something for him to, like, be like, okay, let me build your coffin, right? Like, I don't know. It just seemed a little weird to me. Like...
drinking.
Why
have you forsaken me?
Just kind of cliche in that I don't know exactly who he's talking to. He's not talking to God, and it doesn't make sense for him to be talking to the vampire because...
maybe he's talking to life.
I don't know. Maybe.
And then the Master shows up in, like, his crazy movement and cloak and everything, and he's just like, and he's like, I'm ready, Master, I'm ready for you. And you're just like, oh, this scene. Like...
scene. Okay.
And then goes a completely different direction because I'm ready for this guy to, like, shoot out his just, like, you know, massive forearm stinger thing that's gonna, like, alien cover his entire face. And he doesn't.
He pulls off his hood, number one.
We'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
But he, like, brings out his arm and he, like, slices his arm and slices the guy's arm and pulls out a worm and just kind of, like, drops it in him.
And that was it, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's... it's very different because, like, it's not as messy as one. It seems more kind of, like, ritualistic, like, you are the chosen one.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, this is a side effect of me eating you.
Yeah. It's calculated.
Yeah. And, like, the look on the master's face is like, yes, you are going to be my minion forever.
Yeah.
So the master's face.
Was it horrifying? Was it what you wanted?
No.
Are you going to be able to live with it?
I'm gonna laugh. A lot.
If you want to know what the master's face looked like, go watch Nosferatu.
And then cartoonize it. Because in my mind, Nosferatu...
He's kind of like an orc, Nosferatu. That's what he is.
It's yeah, like the pale orc from The Hobbit.
Yeah.
It's just, ugh. It's like...
Or that, that ratty one with the ears.
Like, this guy, he has, like, these ears out to here. He's pale-faced. He has red eyes. What am I doing? I can just put this up here as I describe it. And he looks so silly. Like, he looks like the villain you would find in a 90s cartoon.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
What?
You could have done so much with this. Like, as you said earlier, the vampire SWAT team were creepier looking.
Yeah, and then we were having this discussion about what we pictured in our heads about what these vampires would look like, and then I was like, you know what I pictured him looking like? You were like, okay, like, you know, like streamlined, and, you know, like there was like nothing wasted on these things. Their stingers were like...
ears are gone, like, they don't have a nose, it's very, like, kind of, okay, Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. Like, that same kind of build, but lighter, and then...
Yeah, and then I was like... You know what he would look like in my head? The Community human being. Like, that's what he would look like, right? Like, there's not a lot to him, but he's freaking creepy. Maybe he has, like, an extra, like, elbow joint or something in there that just, you know, makes him... And it's, like, right up Del Toro's alley. You think, yeah, like, the Pale Man from,
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, kind of, like, so big and, like... I'm, like, dressed perfect for this. And, like, awkwardly, like, proportioned, like, he kind of lords over the room.
But you know what? It would be even creepier if he could move fast, because you're like, how the hell?
Yeah. And, like, they have, like, the movement they have for him is down. Like, the costume they have him in is down, and then he takes off his hood, and I'm just like, you're going to bring about the end of the world?
I don't believe you.
I don't. You look like something out of a Power Rangers episode. Like... And, like, we've seen these, like, little vampire, like, people who've been turned and they're good. They look so cool. Like, it's just kind of like, it almost feels like they dropped the ball on this.
Maybe the other masters will look cooler.
True. Maybe that would...
Did I spoil something? No, there's other masters out there.
There's totally other...
They've got to come into play. Come on.
Like... Totally.
I don't even really know what happens. I just know that they're out there.
I do.
I know. Shh. All right.
So what did you think about the big master reveal?
It's a point of sore spot for us.
And what do you think about F?
It's good weather, not good man, we've been saying.
It's basically the same thing.
I know. Fair weather. He's like a fair weather friend. He's just flip-floppy and up.
Oh, look at that. You read into it by accident. All right. We will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.